Okay, I want to welcome everyone. I did mute myself, so if that was confusing to the online people, that was so that we could remind people how things work here, so that if we're making noise, it doesn't make it so that you can't hear anything that's going on. So that's all that we did, nothing secretive. Okay. So we'll start by doing introductions. And first I want to ask if there's anybody this is their first meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are Laura, would you like to introduce yourself and kind of say what part of the area you live in?
Sure, yeah, my name's Laurel, I live over on Risley Avenue.
Welcome. And does the fire crew want to wait?
I'm gonna introduce someone else when I.
Okay, all right, good enough. My name is Valerie Chapman and I am the chair.
And I'm Mark Elliott, I'm vice chair and I live off Concord Road at Southview.
I forgot to say I live on Evergreen, right block from the trauma trail. And we're introducing our officers first. So Dan.
Hey, I'm Daniel Dyer Greenside, treasurer, and I live off Park Avenue by the next station.
And Ben.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Ben Cheney, board member at large, and I live up on Briggs Avenue, up on the hill, or Briggs Street. You would think I'd know my own street name.
Wayne.
My name's Wayne Potter, and I'm a member at large of the board, and I live on River Road at Willamette View.
And Joyce Johnson, our secretary, and Joseph Edge, our other at-large member, are both not able to be with us tonight. So let's just go around the room here and introduce yourselves and just which part of the area do you come from?
I'm Greg Wennison, I'm about 2 blocks from here on Oak Grove Boulevard between Fair Oaks and Memorial.
I'm Brian, I'm not Evergreen.
Can't hear you.
I'm Monica Blackmore, I live on Fair Oaks Avenue.
Okay.
To be louder,
Yes, you have to speak louder. The owl can't hear. That's why we're trying to get people to come up close.
okay?
We got 2 things here. We'll vacate this.
Again?
Thelma Hagen Miller, I live on Westview Avenue, just south of Concord.
Jane Silverley, I live right down on Grove Boulevard on Fair Oaks Avenue.
Let's go with our folks that are online. Eleanor.
Hi, I'm Eleanor Hunter. I live on Laurie Avenue, just south of Oak Grove Boulevard.
Cindy.
I'm Cindy Brown. I live at Rose Villa.
Tom.
I'm Tom Hogan, and we live on Oldfield Road between Thiessen and Concord.
Craig.
Is that me, Valerie? Sorry.
Yes, you.
All right, sorry. Hi, I'm Craig Van Valkenburg. I am with Willamette View.
Linda.
I'm Linda Seals, and I live on Woodland Way, just south of Oak Grove Boulevard.
And Baldwin.
Baldwin Vanderbilt. I live on Neff Road, very close to Stringfield Park.
Tom and yeah. Hammond, yes.
Tom and Jolene, we live on Viewcrest Drive.
Welcome. Pam.
I'm Pam Horan, I live at Rose Villa.
And Dave.
Dave Tobeck, I live at Rose Villa.
And Sue.
Sue Conahan, and I live at Parkview Circle and River Road.
Okay. Anthony.
Hi everyone, Anthony Desmoni. I'm with Clackamas County, and along with my colleague Scott Holscher, I'll be presenting later this evening.
Okay, and Scott's here too. So do you want to introduce yourself and then?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Scott Holster. I'm a transportation planner for Clackamas County, and like Anthony said, I'll be presenting later tonight.
Okay, so we'll start with some officer reports. Do we have a balance from the treasurer?
Yes, our current checking account balance is $892.32. We got a $10 deposit in February, which was made up of donations made in our February meeting. And so we'll always encourage people to pitch in if you have some extra change. We're going to pass around a little basket. And those who are online may always make a donation at On Point Community Credit Union. Just tell them you want to give some money to the Oak Grove Community Council, they'll take it. And we will too.
So Daniel, I guess Mark gave you a pass on the first time that you're.
Okay.
It's all good.
Okay. All right, well.
All good.
The stolen report.
We got it. It's correct though. I got the bouncer.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, the minutes from last month were sent out. Were there any corrections? in Minutes. Anyone online? Any corrections? All right, then they stand approved as read. Okay, so we have Officer Bauer and the fire crew here tonight, and so welcome.
Perfect, welcome. My name is Mike Bauer, I'm Battalion Chief of Clackamas Fire District. We appreciate the opportunity for letting us come here and do this tonight. Am I in a good spot? There we go. All right. First off, I'll just introduce the crew. So I work in the North Battalion, which is a battalion chief job that basically supervises like 8 stations. And I work out of the Lake Road Fire Station over there by Bob's Red Mill there. But the crew that works at your local firehouse is this crew here. It's Lieutenant Damon Peters, AO Daniel Weisenberg, and Firefighter Logan Cash. And so they work at the local fire station, Station 3, Engine 303. And they're gonna be here as long as they can. They may get another call. As you guys know, Oak Lodge is a pretty busy station for us. So as always, we try to have some talking points for these meetings. And sometimes they're repetitive depending on how often you guys have your meetings. So one thing we like to highlight is we recently, within the last couple of years, had a levy that was passed by the voters. And so we like to give updates on what's going on with your money that you're giving for the levy dollars. So basically the levy has increased so far, has increased the firefighters that are sitting on fire engines and doing work by 62 people. There's been additions to Station 1, which is a admin at Kazi. They had a 4th person. Station 8 has a 4th person now. They've added staffing to Station 13, which is out in Clarks in the Beaver Creek area. That station historically never had any paid people at it, so it was relying on volunteers, and those numbers had kind of dwindled over the years. So they have adequate staffing and a paramedic that responds out of there for that community. While it doesn't run a lot of calls, it does have a big impact because it takes us a long time to get there. Station 14 in Boring, and he has staffing now, 4 people. They had 3, now they're going to 4. Station 15 in Oregon City, the Midtown station, got another person. And Station 16, they have a medic unit that responds out of there 24 hours a day. It was 12 hours a day. So Station 19 got another 4th person. And so the kind of the next thing that's coming is we're going to call it summer of 2025. We're shooting for July, is to open the Station 12, which is the Clark or Logan Fire Station out Springwater out there. So again, a smaller fire station, not a lot of calls, but high impact on those wildfire calls and things like that. Getting a couple of people to respond out of there is super important, and will serve the citizens kind of wall to wall of our fire district very well. So we got our final call volumes from last year. We were up maybe 4,000 calls. So we ran a total of 34,119 calls, which was up about 4,000 calls from the year previous. January started off with a bang, but then it's kind of fizzled out. So we're down a little bit on calls, but we are always going up. It's just people are utilizing the 911 system more and more. And I'll kind of talk about that here in just a minute about what we're doing to kind of distribute those calls a little more evenly. You might see the fire district has a new newsletter that we're trying to kind of reinstate. It's called the Siren, I believe, and it's kind of not an all-encompassing document, but more of just like highlights certain areas. that we think that, you know, the fire district citizens would be interested in. So, you can look on our website how to sign up for that and get that as an email. Other info is, we started a new response unit out of Station 1. It's a rescue unit. So these guys are on a fire engine, the big fire engine that's, has 3 people, has about 700 gallons of water on it, hoses and stuff. It's hard for them to, they go on a lot of calls, but we found that having a rescue unit that has just 2 people, and it's kind of like a pickup truck, like if you saw the old emergency Johnny and Roy type show, that model actually still does great today. So we have 2 people, one of them being a paramedic, and they run on a lot of calls, and they've been taking a lot of calls to keep the heavy apparatus out, off the road. It takes a lot of fuel and maintenance to keep those trucks on the road, and those little smaller rigs are doing a really good job at taking a lot of those calls. So you might see a little pickup truck looking brush rig thing rolling around in maybe Second Avenue and that creeps over here, and that's what that is. We started a new academy, so I think there's 15 people, brand new academy. So they're getting introduced to the fire service. They started March 5th, and this week I was out there today. They're moving hose around, learn how to be a firefighter, really. So I think they have a few months in the academy, and then they'll come out and hit the line and go to the fire stations to kind of backfill, retirements and things like that. Backyard burning opened March 1st. I don't believe that in Oak Lodge you're able to do that. We always just kind of tell people that if you have family members that live in areas that you can do that, to call our burn line first. And if you have a smoke complaint or something like that, like maybe a neighbor isn't aware that you can't burn in Oak Lodge. The unique thing is that we don't really do the enforcement part of that. Like, we can come out and make sure things are safe and there's not a life safety threat, but we can't like go on to their property and write them a ticket. That'd be like the community enforcement type of thing. So you can still make a complaint through DEQ and kind of follow those channels, but we always like to kind of highlight that because it's this time of year when people are maybe don't remember the rules or, light fires that they shouldn't. It's just, it's a unique situation. So, I kind of talked about like things that we're doing to kind of decrease the amount of call volume because we're running a lot of calls. One of those things is called nurse navigation. So we started that. It's been, I think, almost 6 months now. And nurse navigation is when you call 911 and you have an emergency, they have a triage system. The dispatcher will ask you a series of questions. And if it's a life-threatening emergency, they'll put you right through to these guys and they'll show up with an ambulance to your house. But if it's like, maybe it's something that's not life-threatening in the protocol, they'll divert you to a nurse and you'll call, ring to a nurse, and that person can help you get a telehealth appointment. They can set up like an appointment at an urgent care or some other system than the 911 system. As you know, like a lot of people use the 911 system as like primary healthcare, and that's not necessarily what it was made for. And so, we just want to make sure that these crews go on the right type of call, and sometimes people call for what is an emergency in their eyes, but compared to the person that's having a heart attack, like it may not be that. So just something that we're using in addition to the rescue and some of those things to kind of, get the calls where they should be and the right resource to respond on them. And I can take questions at the end too. One other thing quickly is the wildfire property assessments. This is the time of year where we should start thinking about that because every, summer comes quick, things start to dry out. The fire district has a defensible space program. So you can go on our website and say, hey, can you come out and look at my house and tell me what I need to do? Trim bushes back, clean my gutters, do something. We have those programs, so you can go on our website. It's free to request that. A couple of notable calls that we had. You probably saw that the Blue Heron paper mill at the end of January caught fire. Obviously, it hasn't been a paper mill. It hasn't been working as a paper mill for a number of years. I had the opportunity to be the instant commander of that, which was challenging because there was a lot of people and a lot of fire, and major roadway and railway and waterway, lots of things to deal with. So ultimately, it took us a long time to get that put out because it was stubborn and it was in really old buildings that were super dangerous for our firefighters. So all the things that were of value got moved out of there years ago. And the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde own that building now. And they're in the process of demolishing now the fire building, the original fire building, and then they have plans, obviously, maybe you guys know, to develop kind of that area, I think. We always like to at least include a quick safety message. March is Bicycle Safety Month, so if you or a loved one ride the bike very often, make sure you got a helmet on, number one, reflective gear, lights if you're riding at night. And then the one thing we see a lot of accidents is that people don't ride with the flow of traffic proper. So just make sure you review those rules, because a lot of times if you're not riding your bike on the right side of the road, someone turns and they don't see it because they're not looking that direction. So pay attention for that. And the last thing is we like to highlight something for fall protection, fall prevention at homes. A lot of these calls that we go on where we have, elderly people that fall, it's because they have rugs or they wear slippers that are not good on their feet. And so just being aware, looking at, like, if you have a loved one that's susceptible to falls, or you are making sure that like your house is set up for success, because that's, ultimately that's probably where an injury might happen. And as you get older, like your bones get more frail and injuries are never good. So we just want to highlight that. And with that, that's the end of my report. Do you guys have any questions at all? Yes.
I don't know if you have the answer. It has to do with bike safety.
Bike safety.
Is the rule law changed for bicyclists at stop signs? They are no longer required to come to stop.
I can't speak to that. I don't know. I know that like the common sense bike safety that I remember was that, yeah, they were supposed to follow the rules of the road. So they were supposed to travel in the same direction of travel as the vehicles, and then at stop signs and stoplights and things like that, they were supposed to follow that. But maybe law enforcement, if you ever have them here, they could speak to that better. I'm more of the safety side of it than the rules of the road.
We have quite a few stop signs out here, and I
You do.
noticed there were a lot of bicyclists who slow down.
Yeah.
In some communities, that's legal.
And some, yeah, and
And I
maybe,
wonder if Scott Holscher might want to speak to that, since he's a bike.
yeah, I'm sure that there's somebody that has a lot more information on that. Any other questions, fire related or fire district related, that I can answer?
It's still legal to do fireworks here, right?
There's every once in a while, like in the dog days of summer when it's real hot, they'll put a ban on fireworks. I think last year the fire marshal put a ban on fireworks because it was like, all the recipe for a disaster, a fire, and so, but again, enforcement is real hard, so even normal fireworks season, when you have people that light off a lot of fireworks, it's just, there's so much going off in one night, it's almost hard to keep up, and we're really busy on 4th of July, like little brush fires, and it's pretty amazing how, you think like it's pretty, it's not a big deal, and the next thing you know, it's a big deal, so. As far as I know, fireworks are still legal, and every once in a while, the fire marshal could put in like a temporary ban on them, based on that, so.
Maybe we have time for one more quick question.
Yeah, one more,
Is there
yeah,
anybody-
I didn't mean to take up so much time, sorry.
Anybody online looking? Okay.
Okay, thank you so
Thank
much,
you
folks,
so
and we
much for
appreciate the opportunity to be here, so,
Thanks.
all right, thanks, folks. All right.
Okay, Scott.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having myself and Anthony here. I had my volume turned down a little bit, but I think there was a question on the so-called Idaho stop law. It looks like Ben put some good information in the chat. Yeah, there was some legislation, just briefly, legislation a couple years back. Oregon passed the so-called Idaho stop law, which basically allows cyclists, if there's no traffic through the intersection and no cars at the stop sign, it allows cyclists to treat stop signs as yield signs. So it allows cyclists to roll through intersections, kind of treating it as a yield sign. But there's, language in there that there's a need to obviously proceed cautiously and you can't just blow through stop signs, but it's meant to be treated as a yield sign. Thanks, Ben, for putting that in the chat. So I'm gonna jump right in, but I need to share my screen. So Valerie, am I able to do that? Yeah. Get this all set up properly. So again, thanks for having me here. I was here recently for the Courtney Avenue project a couple times. Also here for a Safe Routes to School grant about a year ago for a couple crosswalks at serving Oak Grove Elementary School. And by the way, I don't know if I informed everybody, but we did get that grant award for that project. So thank you for your support for that project. But I'm here to talk tonight about a project that we're going through the adoption process on that allows us to get funding for those type of projects. So having those type of projects in a plan allows us to get grant funding, such as the funding for Courtney, such as the funding for the Oak Grove crosswalks. This project is an update to our pedestrian bicycle master plans. This has been about a 2.5 year long project, and it's called the Walk Bike Clackamas Plan. And I'll do a brief overview of the project and let you know about the public hearings that'll be coming up in April and in May. But first, I wanted to take a trip back to 1996 with you. Gas was much lower than it is now. It was only a little over $1 per gallon. Some of you might have had Palm Pilots instead of an iPhone. And the Spice Girls from England were chart toppers. But that year, 1996, is the last time that the county has done a full update to our pedestrian bicycle master plans. So this project has been a long time coming. It was a very involved process to try to identify a network for walking and biking countywide. But what is a walk bike plan? What is an update to a transportation system plan that looks at walking and biking? It really attempts to set a vision for walking and biking transportation in the county and looks at identifying future system needs that meets that vision.
Okay.
I had to put the salad away and stuff, so I didn't dare open the door.
Oh,
A couple of the
no.
outcomes that I'll talk about tonight are capital
He looks quite
projects.
interested in that food.
So where do we need new bicycle lanes, bike paths, sidewalks, crosswalks, all these things that we do in our transportation network. This plan sets a vision and details where those improvements are most needed. And this is a plan. I'll talk a little bit about community engagement. I wanted to highlight some things surrounding community engagement because we really went into this project wanting to focus on a plan that's built around community engagement. So we spent a lot of resource and a lot of time going out into the community and building a plan based on community involvement. But with the county as large as Clackamas County, we really needed to essentially divide this project up into 5 walk bike plans. So at the beginning of the project, we developed these so-called walk bike planning areas, divided up geographically, 5 areas in the county. There's different needs in the east part of the county around Mount Hood, different needs there than in the urban part of the county. So these boundaries are somewhat based on geographic features that separate areas. They reflect different needs of these areas. So the plan has essentially five mini plans. You could look at it that way. The Oak Grove, the area that, of course, you're interested in, and we'll talk more about tonight, is in the plan is referred to as the McLaughlin area. And it's this, it's highlighted in kind of an orange color on this map. So a little bit about the community engagement that we did as part of this project. And I won't go through all the strategies and all the things that we did during the 2.5 years, but I wanted to highlight a couple things. 4 milestones guided the development of this plan, and these milestones were spaced throughout that 2.5 years. So these milestones consisted of things like surveys, open house events. The first milestone we termed community conversations. And this was an idea to bring information about this project to locations where people were already gathering. You know, having a more meaningful dialogue and bringing information to residents. Sometimes this can lead to just better feedback and more feedback for the projects that we work on. So at the start of this project, we did these so-called community conversations, and we went out into the community. So some of the examples of places that we went to Trolley Trail Fest. I think it's called something different now, but at the time it was called Trolley Trail Fest. We went to Billquist Elementary at a holiday bazaar. We went to farmers markets in Clackamas County. We went to a winter event at the Canby Clackamas County Fairgrounds. And then we held some tabling events in the Clackamas Town Center area. So during those community conversations, a couple of the main questions and some of the information that we wanted to get were information about what's important to you when you think about walking and biking. That information provided a foundation for the goals that really provided a strong bedrock foundation for the development of the plan. So through these conversations, we came up with 6 goals, and those provided the framework for prioritization of projects and other project elements. We also started asking about needed solutions. So where do we need new crosswalks? Where do we need new bike lanes, et cetera, et cetera. The second milestone was an online open house. This was an interactive online survey and open house that we distributed widely, and this pushed out information about the project. We shared information about the so-called shared streets element of the project, which I'll talk about in a minute here. And we also had an interactive, what's called a wiki mapping exercise. And this is a platform where people that visited the open house could pan in and out on a map and drop pins for points such as crosswalks or bike boxes, point improvements, or draw a line where bike lanes, sidewalks, linear improvements were needed. So it's a good way to get feedback on capital projects and where are needed infrastructure improvements throughout the county. And through this open house, we got 800 written comments and almost 300 submissions on this online tool. So there were many other things we did from a public engagement standpoint. We had a project advisory committee, we had a project flyer, we had interested parties list, we had many other things, but I just wanted to highlight a couple, these 2 things for you tonight. Moving on to, I'm going to talk about 2 of the outcomes of the walk bike plan. The first one are projects, which I've mentioned a little bit already. 2 main types of projects that the plan focuses on. The linear projects, which include things like bike lanes, multi-use trails, sidewalks. And the project also includes, as I mentioned, point projects. The little chart here shows a breakdown of the total number of projects for each of those 5 planning areas and the mileage. So in the McLaughlin area, the plan calls for 40 total projects with sidewalk mileage of 34 miles and almost 30 miles of bikeways. This is an example of maps that are in the plan that shows the projects. These maps, I just wanted to talk about how to read these. The three colors are the three priority tiers of projects. So through the prioritization process, there were hundreds and hundreds of projects. And we went through a prioritization process to identify the projects that scored the highest based on specific criteria, those being the highest priority projects based on the analysis that we did. In those projects, tier one or higher priority projects are shown in green. So the green lines and the green points are the highest priority projects in the plan. The yellow or kind of orangish color are tier two or medium priority. And then tier three are the red lines in red dots. With the numbers, the numbering system, if the number is on the line, that corresponds to a linear project. Point projects that have the number offset, so 114 corresponds to the point that it's pointing to. So just wanted to point out that looking at the map, the numbers, sometimes you have a number that's close to both a point and a line, but if it's on the line, that corresponds to the linear line project. And I didn't make a slide of it, but with the maps, there's corresponding tables that have description of the projects, length in miles, start and end point, has more information. So the maps really work hand in hand with the tables. So if you do take the time to review the draft plan, it's really important to use the maps with the tables. Yeah, so if we have time, we can pull up a table to show an example of that. The second outcome that I wanted to talk to you about is this concept of shared streets. And these are a type of, we don't have any of these in Clackamas County currently, but it's a type of improvement, facility improvement like bike lanes, like sidewalks. These shared streets provide connections to those other type of traditional facilities. And it's something that came out of a growing concern about just the speed of traffic, and that speeding is a problem on a lot of our streets. So I'm sharing this graphic, which shows a connection between higher motor vehicle speeds and crash severity. So at slower speeds, there's a much higher likelihood that somebody would survive a collision. And what this graphic shows is just a 5 mile per hour increase in speed, and the chance of a pedestrian fatality doubles. So looking at overall safety of our transportation system, if there's an opportunity to moderate speeds to an extent, it's really an important safety feature. And just a small decrease can really make a difference. So what we did with these shared streets is the goal was to look at local streets and where are those opportunities to lower the speed limit to 20 miles an hour. So these are streets, again, that could provide safe connections for walking and biking at low speeds. And the first thing we would do on these shared streets is lower the speed limit to 20 miles an hour. Currently, most of these streets that we're looking at as part of this network are posted at 25 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour. Our public surveying showed strong support for this. The approach would be to kind of take it a step at a time, which would mean first doing the lowering the speed to 20 miles an hour, putting up signage, possibly pavement markings, and see how it goes. Following that, there could be other treatments. These are an example of the things that could be done on shared streets. Specific signage indicating shared streets, some traffic calming. Some communities, put in traffic diverters or speed bumps for traffic calming. We don't have a plan for implementation yet. What goes on these specific streets, that would be worked out down the road. At this point, it's strictly the lowering the speed limit to 20 miles an hour and looking at associated signage. So implementation of this would follow the plan adoption. So those are kind of the things I wanted to highlight. But Valerie had gotten the notice of some public hearings, so she invited me and Anthony here to, give you a very quick snapshot of this project and let you know about upcoming public hearings for the project. So we're going to be briefing the Board of County Commissioners next week on April 1st. And then there's two public hearings for this project. The Planning Commission public hearing is April 14th, and that'll be via Zoom. And the Board of County Commissioners public hearing will be, I think, hybrid, and that's May 13th. It would be wonderful if anybody could testify in support of the project. We wanted to let you know about this. And if there's time, I can take any questions. I'll stop sharing.
Mark, you have a question?
Yes, Scott, thank you. I wanted to ask you about the implementation of this plan when it intersects with state roads like Highway 99. How do you have jurisdiction to be able to implement projects on the highway? How would that work in relation to state highways versus county highways and roads?
Yeah, the plan is for county maintained roads. So, McLaughlin is a state highway and ODOT controlled road. We do projects that intersect state highways such as Courtney. So that project has been, a collaboration on the portions that get close to Highway 99 and that touch the state highway. There's a lot of collaboration with ODOT in terms of, how does that look when it touches the facility? But this plan, there are some projects that are collaborative efforts. There is, I would have to double check, but we can look at the map. I think McLaughlin is in the plan. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anthony's, yeah.
It is, yeah.
We were just looking at it. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. I didn't want to misspeak, but yeah, it is. And so it is, there are projects such as the Cazadero Trails, another example of an ODOT owned facility that is in the plan. And it would just require a collaboration. It would be, led, Cazadero Trail would be led by ODOT. McLaughlin would have to lead a project that looks at improvements along McLaughlin. But having it in our plan would lead to, collaboration opportunities. We've done projects where the county has received the funding, but then it's led by ODOT and it's a joint collaborative project. So there are opportunities. By having it in the plan, it certainly puts us in a position to get funding in the future.
Does the county have any particular influence over ODOT to prioritize some projects, say on 99? I'm thinking.
Well, we did do a project with them, and I was involved with kind of the management of that project where we looked at the entire corridor. This was done about 4 years ago, that we looked at the corridor it was kind of a pet bike project. So we looked at where are new crossings needed, where are sidewalk infill projects needed, how do we improve those bike facilities along McLaughlin, looked at all those sort of elements. It looked at a bike signal, a crossing at the Jennings, where the trolley trail Jennings and McLaughlin come together. We have an influence in the sense that we're involved with projects with them, but it's a large bureaucracy, and it's, ultimately, their decision on in terms of projects. But we do the best we can to influence them, but it's a large organization.
I'm thinking about the project that's happening in the Concord property, which is about a block from McLaughlin, where the Concord School used to be, and now it's going to be a community center, a park and a library opening this fall, and that seems like a great candidate for focus for bikes and walking and all the ways to get there that the community will need. Is that on the radar of your project?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was a project that was, we got a lot of public support and a lot of comments that were advocating and supporting that project, for that connection to the library and that new facility that's going in there. So it is in the plan, and it is a tier 1. It is a high priority project. So it is definitely something that the county has been looking at closely in terms of there's definitely need for improvements there and having safe connections to the new facilities.
Yeah,
Yeah, quick one, slightly off topic, but you made me think about it. Scott, when you're mentioning about lowering the speed limit 25 to 20 on the shared streets, which I can see, that makes sense when you have bikes kind of sharing the roadway there. Curious about how some of those other speed decisions get made. Like I noticed a month or two ago, the speed limit dropped on Park from 30 to 25. I was curious how some of those decisions get made.
Well, there's a lot of analysis that goes into that. Really, that's headed by our traffic safety division. Not aware of actually all the analysis that goes into it, but we do have the authority now. The state law was changed. County actually for a long time did not have the statutory authority to lower the speed. But the statute has changed, and we now do have that. And that was one of the reasons for the shared street program, is to start, slow, and, look at those local streets, the 25-mile-an-hour streets, and look at doing that. Yeah. Yeah, Ben.
Yes, Scott, I asked the question about the bikes and the stop signs. I have a question now about speed limits with bicycles. I live on 25-mile-an-hour street, and it also has a lot of bicyclists who use the trolley trail and come down through my street and proceed. And there are times when I notice there are bikes that are going by and they're doing more than 25 miles an hour. Professional people. Is there, are they able to be cited and ticketed much like a driver for exceeding the speed limit, or bicycles exempt from that?
I don't know of any law that would, that where they could get ticketed. I'm not aware of any, so I don't think they could. I think it's rare that a bike would be able to go that fast, but with the e-bikes, I guess it's sometimes possible. But no, my understanding is there's not a law that would, where somebody could get ticketed. But Ben might know something to that effect.
So, Ben, I see that you have a question.
Yeah, no, I don't know anything about that. I've always thought that the posted speed limit applies to bikes as well. I don't think I've heard of many tickets being issued, but conceivably it seems like that could happen. But what I wanted to ask was regarding the shared streets element of it. Do you have volume targets that you're sort of looking at as well, or are these streets that are sort of low enough volume where that's not really part of the design goal at this point?
Yeah, the target's 2,000, less than 2,000 ADT per day. And we haven't done counts on all these streets. We probably will. I think that's one of the things that needs to be determined is, when we start lowering, are we going to go out and do accounts? That's, to be determined. But at this point, the target is less than 2,000. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
There was a question in the chat about where funding would come from for this project.
Yeah, so there's not funding tied to these projects, so it's not like a capital improvement program where there's money that's set aside and assigned to specific projects in the plan. It would be to be determined, but mostly through grant funding, such as the Courtney, such as the Oak Grove crosswalks. So it's a long-term vision. There's billions and billions of dollars of projects there. So prioritizing and trying to identify the most important projects was an important part of the process. Yeah, it was grant funding. And that's kind of the target at this point, is seeking grants.
Are there other questions for Scott around the walk bike project? Hey, well, we appreciate that overview, and then we're hoping that you would kind of give us some words about the Clackamas travel option.
All right, well, go back to screen share and pull up the next slideshow. Okay, give me a minute here. Okay, so this project is a new project. Well, I guess it's been going on for about a year. So this is called the Travel Options Action Plan. And it's a project that looks at how we make people aware of other ways to get around the county to lessen demand on their roadways. So this is a 3-year project. This is a grant-funded project. We received a grant from Metro to do this 3-year project. And the grant funding has allowed us to bring on a consulting team led by Steer Consulting, and also Enviro Issues, who is a public involvement sub on the project. So kind of want to do 3 things with this project is do a brief overview of the project, get your feedback on a specific project component, and then we have an ask as part of this. So why this project? So one reason, we're required by state law to do certain things, and this is one of them. So you may have heard of the Oregon statewide planning system that has 19 statewide planning goals. These guide everything from how we manage farmland and how we preserve forest land to transportation planning. Transportation is statewide planning goal number 12, and there's certain rules called administrative rules that dictate how we implement goal 12 transportation. And those rules have specific things that TSPs, transportation system plans, need to include. One of those things is the so-called transportation options component. We'll be starting our TSP this spring, early summer. So this element will feed into our transportation system plan at the time that that's adopted. And I'm going to turn it over to Anthony for this one.
Thanks, Scott. So, ostensibly or effectively, the travel options plan is a transportation demand management plan. This is a term in kind of transportation planning that's fairly new. It's kind of gaining awareness and popularity. But in short, TDM is programs, marketing, signage, and light infrastructure. Um, all sorts of strategies to help encourage or increase access to travel options other than driving alone that don't put pavement on the ground or just the right of way. And the recommendations from this plan may include some of these TDM programs. We may find that these are appropriate for the Clackamas County context or for certain parts of the county. But it won't necessarily include all of them. But things like this are bike access programs, van pool programs, transit pass programs, parking policies, probably less likely to be part of our recommendations, but that is one example of TDM. And then carpool and ride matching programs, that's another fairly popular one. And Scott, if you want to move to the next slide. We expect two major outcomes from this project. First is the plan itself, and that's going to include a strategy toolbox and recommendations for TDM in the county. So what is most appropriate for us to pursue here in the county, and what's most appropriate for us to potentially fund. And then I'd like to direct attention to the second outcome of the project, which makes our project somewhat unique. The project's going to include a year-long pilot program for a selected TDM strategy that's identified as most appropriate and providing the best opportunity for the Clackamas County context. So that could be something that's more county-wide. It could be something more targeted, but we're excited to operate that pilot and run that pilot because we think what we identify is going to be very good for our context. And then we have the ability to and funded ability to actually do that for a year. So that's a unique opportunity for us. And you can move to the next slide, Scott.
Yeah, so this slide shows some other examples of what this project, is what TDM, what travel options might be. It's really looking at making people aware of other travel options. So it might be marketing strategies, light infrastructure. These are some examples that hit close to home. Some examples in Oak Grove. Bicycle parking would be an example of a TDM strategy. Bike parking that we did in corner of Arista and Oak Grove Boulevard. The banners on McLaughlin, the walk Oak Grove. Wayfinding signage is an example of a strategy. We recently printed off Clackamas County bicycle map, and we're working on an online component to the bicycle map. So these are some examples of things that have been done recently, but we're looking for other ideas on what we might pursue as part of that pilot that Anthony mentioned, or pursue in the future through grant funding or other means. So the ask is we have a survey that is live, and it's live until April 1st. So there's still almost a week left for this survey, and really trying to get an increase in number of people taking the survey. It's really helpful to, when we formulate this plan, it's really a large survey pool and a lot of responses is really helpful to when we begin trying to identify what strategies do we want to focus on. So the survey asks about those, if ideas, suggestions. It also asks about, current travel habits. It's about a 10 to 15 minute survey. It's in English and Spanish. So we'd love if everybody would be able to take it and also share it with family and friends, would be wonderful. Like I said, the results of this will help us begin drafting these of the plan.
And I'll just call out really quick. Sorry, Scott. I'll put the link to this in the chat for everyone that's online, just to make it a little easier. You don't have to pull out your phone necessarily.
Yeah, so those are the two things that we wanted to share. Again, on the first one, the public hearings, and I can send that notice back to Valerie that has more detailed information on those public hearings. And happy to answer if there's time, happy to answer questions on the travel options or the walk bike.
I think I did send out the survey link with, but we can do it again. So I want to make sure that everybody has that. I have a question, Scott, about, so that the transportation alternatives other than cars, I mean, that would seem to me that that's most important in really urban areas. So, do the cities in Clackamas County manage that on their own? And I mean, Oak Grove is this really interesting urban area, but we're unincorporated. So does that make the attention different in our area? I mean, do cities, are they the default that takes care of some of this, where there is a city?
It's really a fragmented hodgepodge right now. That was one of the reasons for the project is reaching out to our partners, our cities, transit providers, and coordinating with them. How can we collaborate better in the future? What are you guys working on? Who's doing what? There are a lot of different things happening in this space. So there's things that City of Oregon City is doing. The Wilsonville has a separate division called SMART. So they do different TDM work. It's really, Metro has a lot of regional work going on. So it's kind of all over the board. That's one of the challenges with this space is coordinating and figuring out what's needed, what's not duplicative. So that is one of the challenges, and that's what we're working on. We have an advisory committee that's made up of some of those partners, somebody from SMART, somebody from Metro. So we're working on that coordination and collaboration, but it is challenging because there's so many different organizations that is working on this stuff.
I'm just gonna put in a little plug for Oak Grove, because I have that opportunity to, because we're unincorporated, but we are an urban area and in need of those kind of services. So don't forget us. Put that out there. And then I see that Bob Bohan has a question.
Yeah, sorry, I'll apologize to my co-members. I've got something that kind of ties in together, Scott, but it's slightly out of our neighborhood. I've got 3 or 4 friends that have probably 5 businesses along the trolley trail. Would really, really like to get some bike racks installed, and maybe possibly one of like the maintenance or the air pump, like what we have in downtown Oak Grove. They've seen that. They really, really like it. But they're towards the end of the trolley trail down at Gladstone. But there's a lot of bike activity in Gladstone already. But they would really like to get some bike racks down there installed. And they're all for having them in front of their business and whatnot as well. So it's not a problem with it. People raising heck. But how do we go about doing that? I know that one of them's talked to the city a little bit. And they kind of I don't know. I don't know if they got blown off, but I think Gladstone is, under an economic crunch like everybody else. And, you're talking about spending money. But from what I understand, talking to Joseph on some of these commissions he's on, that there is quite a bit of grant money out there for that kind of stuff for some of the bike infrastructure. So, and that's all they're looking for is to put in some additional racks and, possibly the little maintenance air station.
Yeah, appreciate that, Bob. That's a great comment. And as far as funding or how to get that done, we were approached by the historic downtown Oak Grove HDOG back in the day on the same issue at the corner of Oak Grove and Arista. So for that one, we applied for grant funding to do those. Those were kind of that special, unique design that have the trolley trail and the Oak Grove logo. So we fabricated those with the special design, but that was through a grant. And we could look at that as well for the area you're talking about. Yeah, I wish we had, that would be one of the things that could be, done through this project. Is one thing I wanted to do is set up a program where, because we don't have funds to go out and there's a lot of places that need bike parking, but we don't have racks sitting around where we can go out if somebody reaches out to us and go install them. But if we set up some sort of program where we had, some on hand, and then when we get a request, go install them, that would be something, something I've thought about and wanted to do for a long time.
Good idea, yeah. And that actually could work in this scenario. As one of the business owners, her husband happens to be a general contractor, so yeah, it'd be pretty easy. He's already got all the yellow tools, so he's good to go there. Get a volunteer force put together for a weekend, and it should be good to go. So.
All right. Are there other questions? Okay, Ben.
Yeah, kind of following on what Bob just said, policy wise, sort of like building requirements, bike parking, is that a policy that is in either of these two plans sort of scopes, or would that be something else entirely, like whatever the building code requirements are? I don't exactly know how that would be
Yeah,
phrased,
that's
but yeah.
good. That's a great question, because so the zoning code has specific requirements for installing bike parking at the time of development. So if there's a new building that's constructed in the county, they're required to, this is for new commercial institutional buildings. They're required to install bike parking, and there's a certain number depending on the use of the building. So it's all prescribed. And the problem is those requirements have only been in the zoning code for, I don't know exactly, 20 years or something. So there's a lot of development that was developed before the zoning code requirement was put in place. So that's the problem, is you got all this pre-existing development that was done without bike parking. So hence, Bob's suggestion of, so some sort of program, and there are cities that have that, where they have, essentially an inventory of bike racks. And then if there's a business that calls them up, they're like, hey, yeah, we'll go out and install bike parking for you. It's just the hoop racks, kind of the simple design racks, are pretty cheap. Those aren't very expensive.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thanks.
Other questions? All right, well, thank you, Scott and Anthony. You got one.
It's not actually a question, but Scott, years ago I interacted with you, and you were gracious to have the woman who's starting Frog Ferry come to one of the bike walk advisory groups. And I just want to say, just remind everybody to dream big. It's not a dead dream anymore, but it will start in Portland between Cathedral Park and where OHSU is. But eventually the view and the vision is it would go from probably into Vancouver and all the way down to what do they call it, the Legacy Project at Willamette Falls. So it's, if you're gonna be talking about these nice things that we should consider as alternatives to get around, that's one of the finest things that happens all over the world, but hasn't happened here yet.
Yeah, that's, we were looking at that the other day. Yeah, that's hopefully will come to fruition.
Hope so too.
All right. Well,
So
thank you,
Valerie,
Scott.
if it's okay, I'll send you that notice again on the public hearings, and if you don't mind sending that to your members, would be most appreciated.
Thank you, Anthony, also for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you.
So those of you who have an agenda, we do not have anything from Luar tonight. I did talk to Joseph when he let me know he was not gonna be here tonight, that he got some new projects, but that would be, they weren't anything that he needed to really talk about tonight, so we can do that next month. So having said that, I would like to, turn the floor over to Greg Wenson, who is here.
Can I go over there?
Absolutely, you can come over here.
All right. Okay, just a sec. Greg Wennison, I'm with Oak Lodge CERT, and CERT is Community Emergency Response Team. And it's a FEMA Citizen Corps program, basically to prepare citizen volunteers to support their community and basically be ready to respond for emergencies and disasters. And our mission is basically to prepare ourselves, to prepare our neighbors, to prepare our community, and third, to be able to respond and help emergency services when they're overwhelmed in a disaster emergency. And we've got about 30 members in our group. And what a CERT member basically has to do 24 hours of training to a FEMA curricula, of which I'm one of the instructors in it, and we're going to do one in about 2 weeks. It'll be 3 Saturdays. But then in a team itself that continues to train as a team and prepare itself and its members to be able to respond. Just an idea of some of the things that we've done until COVID, we did presentations almost quarterly on emergency preparedness topics, earthquakes, the Nepal earthquake, mass casualty, family reunification, things like that. And if COVID, that would have stopped all that stuff. And we also lost our Blackman's Fire District meeting rooms. Some of the other things we did, we've helped public health during the flu vaccine in 2019, and in 2020, we also helped COVID testing, and in 2021, we did most of the traffic control at Blackman's Town Center for the multiple COVID vax clinics. In 2019, with Oak Lodge Water Services and Blackman's Fire, we did a public water distribution exercise at Concord School. And that was a fairly big exercise. Basically, it was PODS, or point of distribution exercise, which is a FEMA exercise for distributing goods to the community in a mass situation. We also assisted 2020 with fires and some of the shelter ops and etc. So the reason that I'm here is that in 2020, Blackman's Fire District busted their budget. And they had a leadership change shortly thereafter. And their 2019 strategic plan was specifically written in to integrate into their community outreach efforts. And in their 2023 strategic plan, Blackman's Fire, their only community outreach was to justify the bond. All of the other community outreach has been dropped. So they've been our sponsor since 2018, and that is one of the things that's required to be a recognized CERT, is a sponsor that has emergency response capabilities, because we actually fall into the incident command system, which is part of a national system of organizing and responding to disasters. So we were notified about a month ago that Blackman's Fire is going to drop sponsorship for us as of the 30th of June. And we require a sponsor to be an official CERT to get access to grants. They also give us some storage at Station 4. There's a big 40-foot container there. So my ask in here is, well, before I get there, we've been meeting with Oak Lodge Water Services. They seem amenable to actually picking up sponsors. And as a special district, they actually can, they fit into an emergency response effort. So we're hoping that they will pick us up, and I'll present to them in about 2 weeks to the board. And I talked kind of ad hoc at the last meeting that was there. Thank you, Jamie. And thank you, Thelma. So my ask of, the CPO is that you put a letter of support for Oak Lodge to the Oak Lodge Water Services, supporting our request to them, for them to be a sponsor for us.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for being here and thank you for all the work that you do. I was laughing when you first came in, but it did make us feel better. There was somebody from CERT here, and then we had the fire department, and there's a tornado warning, so you know. So thank you for that. Are there questions or comments or about his request?
Well, I would like to make a motion that the membership vote in favor of the board writing a letter to the Oak Lodge Water Services Authority to consider sponsorship for the Oak Lodge Circuit.
I'd second that.
I have a comment. I'd rather not have it say support. I'd rather say urge them to support it.
Very nice comment, thank you.
Just, you know. Thank you.
Did they give any reasoning why they're dropping?
So, their strategic plan currently doesn't have any space for community outreach. And they said, and I was talking with, the Bauer. Yeah, earlier, and he said, we wish we could, but we wish there's no place to integrate us into their operations. Which we actually find strange because we have had no conversations with them. We've basically been held at arm's length and treated kind of like Boy Scouts, you know, tolerated but not really integrated. So actually, Oak Lodge Water would be a much better fit because we're boots on the ground in the same footprint for Oak Lodge Water. And we've got a radio network, both ham operators, about a third of our people are ham operators. And all of our people are GMRS radio connected, which we also have an antenna up on top of those levels.
So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion about writing a letter of support?
Urgent.
Urgent, letter, yes. Is there anyone who has concerns about this or that feels that we should not write a letter of support?
My only concern would be not having a viable CERT organization in our neighborhood. That's a concern.
Seeing no questions of concern, I would say that this is there, that it's a unanimous consent is. If I'm speaking out of turn.
No, but
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, can you mute your phone?
Here we go. What have we done here? All right, and Mark, we have things to talk about with NCPRD or is Anna going to do that? Okay, Anna.
Okay, so, there have been various outreach events put on by NCPRD, and that's a sort of a top-down approach. But, the other approach is the, grassroots, community-led, outreach between us in the community. So on April 9th, starting at 5:30, there's a sort of a mixer and a social get-together at the aquatic park. That starts at 5:30. At 6 o'clock, we'll have a lot of discussions and brainstorming together. But it's not an actual NCPRD event, even though they're allowing us to use one of the rooms there. So we're looking forward to a lot of community people coming and dreaming big about what we want our parks to be like and what we want going forward and what we don't want and innovative ideas and getting to know each other so that we are kind of like mycelium or something, So that's the big thing on the horizon is, basically that.
I just want to make sure for anybody that might be new tonight, that North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, you know, we say NCPRD,
yeah.
and we roll it off our tongues like.
Thank
Like we all know.
And Lord.
And LUAR, yes,
LUAR, right.
land
Yes.
use, application
Review team.
review team, yes.
Would be an announcement of what you, from the park district, or would be written notice like emails or something going out? Or?
It will be from, a bunch of us have various networks. It won't probably not be put out by NCPRD, but it will be. But I'll get I have your contact information. So, yeah, it'll be going out to, we have like one network, e-list that's about 300 people. And then my personal one is about 65 or 70 people, and some other people have.
And if you send it to me, I'm sure.
I will send it to you.
And
That
I'll
would be
make sure it
great.
goes out.
Okay, I'll do that soon. Grover's already sent it out to the friends of the park. Yeah, but we'll need to put out a reminder one because it came with another event. There was a forum that the county put on, so we want to put out one that's a little more specific to this. Yes, it has gone out to some people already. Anything to add?
Naming.
Oh, naming. Why don't you talk about that?
Sure, so NCPRD has put out or is putting out a request for folks to help name the new community center and park at the Concord School. I'm not gonna be able to tell you where to go other than to the NCPRD website. I think I'm planning on sending that link.
I have that link
Yeah.
too. I can
Yeah.
send that one out when I send all of these links.
Yes, right, and I was gonna put it on our Facebook page as well. It's just an opportunity for you to give input into what you think the community center and library should be named. There's, you know, a lot of criteria that they have, you know, around like naming it after an important person or a feature or a bird or an animal. You know, there's different categories that they have.
Or indigenous people.
Indigenous people, yes, right. So that is an ongoing effort that will take place with intent is I believe the community center and park are scheduled to open in the fall of this year.
Right.
So I did get quite a long piece about the naming process and the project, so I will make sure that goes out to people.
That'd be good.
So they have the opportunity to see it. If you send me the piece about the gathering on April 9th, then I think I have everything else that I.
Yeah, thank you for that option. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Jane, did you have a community issue you were gonna bring up?
Yes, I did, but I wondered if Eleanor wanted to, mention that.
I think it would be great if the community council would write a letter to the BCC regarding the appointment process for the opening on basically our 5 mayors. I would also, so I would urge the community council to write a letter, but I would also urge everybody to write individual letters saying that we would love to have a fresh person, fresh ideas, you know, newness on the commission for the appointment, so that we would have new ideas and fresh persons to be considered for the appointment. That was a little garbled, but that's the idea.
So maybe clarity, just to say, you know, our last meeting, we had Commissioner Melissa Fireside here. Within 4 days of that meeting, she resigned, and so there's an opening. She had a brand new term. It's not, you know, it's the way that gets filled is that there's an appointment from the BCC. So this is the process we're talking about. And I believe that there's some concern, some people thinking it should be somebody that was already on the commission. And people that were on the commission, some people, you know, lost in a public election, and maybe a fresh start is to have somebody that the voters haven't already rejected for one reason or another.
Right.
That's fresh. Is that clear, Eleanor? Is that?
Thank you, Valerie, for the context. Of course, thank you so much. And it is that idea rather than saying, let's not appoint somebody who's already been on the commission, to state it in a more generative, future, positive way of saying, let's have fresh energy and fresh ideas come to the commission. That would be my suggestion.
So it's my understanding that the commissioners are going to have an evening meeting when people who want to be one of the appointees can come and be interviewed sometime next week, I think.
I think there is gonna be at least one public meeting, and so the question is kind of here that has been brought to us is, do we want to write a letter as a CPO that just encourages the appointment of someone that is a fresh start for our county, so it includes everybody.
But again, as Eleanor had stated, everyone in the county is perfectly capable of going to the county's website, finding the location, making your own personal comment, however you feel about it. Everyone is certainly encouraged to make some commentary if they so desire. And we would just hope that the community council could chime in, because this is basically our mayors. We have no other form of government other than that. The person who is appointed by the 4 remaining commissioners will be in office until an election can be held in the fall of 2026. So this is going to be for some time, and that's all because of policy and law and the way that it's written. So we will have a long time to have a new commissioner there. We hope that they don't choose wisely.
Well, in addition to that, if there are applicants out there that apply, and there's 3 or more, there will be a May election. If there's only 2 applicants that apply at the elections office for the position, then they go directly to the November election.
Right, in 2026, right?
No, this year.
This year?
This
No.
year.
No, I think it's
No.
in 2020.
No.
Not the way I read it.
Hopeful, you're hopeful, but I think that this appointment goes until the fall election.
There's going to be a lot more than 2 people who apply, and it's an appointment process. In general, the public is not a participant in that, which is appropriate. So it's not about a few people making a whole lot of noise saying, we want this person. They don't represent all the voters in the county. So it's, put in your plug for how you'd like the process to be. It's not about who the candidates would be. This is about process. It's not about a personality or a person. This is the community council urging a process.
Yeah, and I just clarify, I think Thelma was talking about in 2026, according to the law, there's an election and Oregon, we have both primaries. And then if there's not someone fair winner from there, then it would go to the fall election. So I think she was talking about something different.
True. Right.
So is there a motion from the floor regarding a letter?
My motion is to write a letter of support for fresh ideas and new people
That comes from the
to be
CPO?
considered for the appointment process.
Is there a second?
I will second.
All right, is there any discussion about this? How do we want to vote? This is open. How, are there people that are opposed to the CPO writing a letter asking for a fresh start, a new person?
I'll abstain.
We have 1 abstention.
Yeah, I gotta throw a stick in the spokes, but I have a bit of an issue with it because you had a very, very close election between a couple of folks. And in my theory, the election was thrown a little bit. Our new chair for the commission, Mr. Roberts, and our district attorney and the county clerk, all three plus, I don't know about anybody else on the commission, but all knew that she was under investigation for some felonies, along with our governor in Salem was aware of it, along with Willamette Week. And so I think there was a bit of a conspiracy there to kind of just let this ride run on through. And I have a bit of a problem with it. I think it should go to the number 2 candidate. And I'm not a Mark Scholl fan by any means. So I just feel that there's some shenanigans going on and that they should make it right. So, and from what I understand, there's a bit of an investigation going on as to who all knew and when they knew it. So don't know. There may be some more openings coming up as well. We'll have to see.
Why should Clackamas County be exempt from the chaos that is ensuing in so many parts of the world?
Absolutely.
So that's definitely new information to me, Bob, that there was knowledge about this stuff. I still feel like it would be nice to have fresh.
Yeah, according to Willamette Week, they knew about it. Tina Kotek knew about it. Craig Roberts knew about it. John Wentworth knew about it. And forgive me, I can't remember the county clerk's name at the very instance, escaping me. I do not know whether any of the other commissioners knew or not. That I have not heard, but it was not a big secret.
This is Pam Moran at Rosevilla, and I've been listening to this. And as a voter, I didn't know about all this hanky panky, but I did know I wanted fresh ideas and new people. So I would say I would go with the fresh ideas and, let's be fresh. Yeah, because most voters probably didn't know about all this.
Well, they didn't. Yeah, and I don't have any problem with that idea. I agree that we definitely, the stuff we're doing is not working. We need to change horses really, really bad. But just with the shenanigans that were pulled on it, I think it was a very corrupt election, unfortunately.
But as a voter, I didn't know that. And so my heart was pure and my vote was pure and I want something new. So that's all I have to say.
Right. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I guess question, as a public body, are we being allowed to make a statement like that about the appointment of an elected officer? Is that even allowed?
We're a seat. We can write a letter to the county commissioners. They're like our mayors. They're our governing body directly. So all we're saying is if you make an appoint somebody that's fresh, new, not somebody who has been defeated by the voters in our area.
I agree with that as make sure we're not out of line or anything.
No, we're not. We can do that. All right, so I hear maybe one abstention and one no vote. Are there other people that, where are we? I mean, I respect your opinion, Bob, and I don't think anybody should be afraid to say that they're not with this letter.
Did Bob say that he was not against this, or that he was against this?
It's pretty much an abstention. I'm just not comfortable with it all the way around, but I'm not going to say, hell no, run down the street with my hair on fire or anything yet.
Certainly vote no if you want. I mean, go ahead.
So 2 abstentions. Are other people comfortable with a letter, just a general letter of? No. You're a no. I'm a no. Okay.
Yeah, no stage.
I just having because it kind of gives the suggestion that anyone who has held office before should not be considered. And I think that's a little bit problematic.
Well, I think it's just people that have been on the board of county commissioners before. Not so, people that were on and were defeated by voters, not any other elected office, just if they've already been on the board of county commissioners. Does that clarify?
Yeah.
Right. So I'm trying to circumvent that particularness to say fresh ideas and new people. So it doesn't get into all of that.
So there are 3 who have applied who have been commissioners. There are 3 who've applied who have been commissioners.
So far, the deadline is April 9th.
Yeah, we don't know everybody that will apply, but, you know, I mean, I guess we don't want to be partisan about it. We also want to just respect voters, how they voted in the county. That would be the thought. But we don't have to go forward with that. So can we do a show of hands? Are people comfortable with showing hands?
People started showing their hands already.
How many voting members are there?
22.
22. By state law, if it's under 25, you have to have the names when the vote.
Right.
So we
So,
just need to know the no and abstentions.
if we could do a show of hands here, people online, if you send your vote in the chat to Ben Cheney, who's on the board, just let him know.
I'm a yes.
Yeah. Just.
I like Eleanor's idea.
So then Cindy, go on the chat
Okay.
and say to Ben Cheney, because then there's a written note, there's a written list of it. So if there's ever a question about that, because it's just hybrid, we're trying to, I would guess that's what we're wanting to do. So if you can go to Ben Cheney and type in your vote. So
While they're doing that online, I'm just gonna go around, yes or no, Wayne?
Yes.
Lowell's not a voting member yet, Greg? Yes. Dan?
I'm abstaining.
Abstain. No.
Jane, yes.
We have 5 yeses here, 3 abstains, and 1 no. And so Ben, as soon as you have them all, can you let us know?
Yeah, just a minute. So how do you want this summarized? Just a total number of yeses, nos, and abstains?
Yes. Total number of abstains and total no, yeah.
Okay, just a second. Last chance for folks to send in your votes.
Isn't this exciting? I have to tell you, got really scared when it said that our system was unstable because we're plugged in with the right cord this month and we weren't last month, and that was bad, but maybe that was the tornado. We don't know.
The tornado, yeah.
We'll look at that.
All right, we have 7 yeses and 1 abstain.
And 1 abstain. Okay, that means we have 12 yes, 4 abstain, and 1 no. So the motion passes. We will make it generic as it goes out, so, and non-partisan, yeah.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Eleanor, for bringing it up tonight. Are there other committee reports, announcements? Jane?
I'd like to say that last night I attended the county's listening session for the population at Jennings Lodge. And they're having another one tomorrow night in Sandy. And other than that, there will, I believe, be no more in-person meetings, but you can go to the county's website and it should be pretty prominent right when you go on. They would like to hear everyone, and what they're hearing, what they want to hear is, what would you like to see? What is your issue with the county? Whatever strikes you. And they have a private firm that they've hired outside the county to look at all these things and analyze them and bring them to the commission when they have their new commission seated. And it would behoove all of us to vent ourselves and say whatever we like.
Thanks for attending that meeting last night, Jane.
It was,
I think it sounded riotous.
It was intense.
Okay.
I'll just mention the Oak Grove Festival is going along well as far as planning. We have about 65 booths already signed up for out of the 100 and so that we have available. And so we're doing really well with getting a lot of community support for the festival. Festival is the last Saturday in June, and you'll hear more about it in the future. And I'll talk to you, Greg, about some help from you guys again, if you're open to help us out there. Okay.
Tom Hogan, I see you have your question.
Yes, I do. Our Gladstone Oak Grove Kiwanis Club is having our annual spaghetti dinner on April 26th, which is a Saturday, and we're at the United Methodist Church again. And it's a fundraiser. All of the proceeds go to supporting the key clubs, the high school key clubs that we support. And a high school key club is a club teaching kids to do service and providing them an opportunity to do that. So love to have everyone come. I have a flyer here. I'd love to post any of them up wherever you would like them. So if you would like to have me send one, be happy to do that. So
If you
Saturday, April 26th, 5 to 7.
5 to 7. If you send the flyer to me, Tom, I can send it out.
That would be great. I will. Thank you.
And
Yes.
hang on one second. And again, that was at the United Methodist Church in Oak Grove.
United Methodist Church, 5 to 7.
Great,
April
thanks.
26th.
Thank you.
I would like to thank the Oak Grove Community Council for the letter of support for the Elks parking lot grant that I'm submitting. I went to the board last night with, I think, 7 letters of support in the grant and got their okay to go ahead and submit it. Doesn't mean we're gonna get it, but we're gonna submit it. I'm gonna submit it tomorrow. And I do have some copies with me of the grant and most of the letters of support if anybody in the room would like to have one.
I should say last month when Thelma came and talked about asking us to give a support letter for the grant that we were doing, I brought up the issue that we've been going on and on about that fence. And Thelma's been really good about trying to get connected. And I had a very nice conversation with Casey Hirsch from Milwaukee Elks. And now we're going after TriMet because they are the dominant easement holder, therefore they're responsible for the property. So I sent them all more pictures, a copy of the letter that we sent to them a year ago, and a request that somebody step up and do something anyway. So it just feels like it's an on and on.
Yeah.
So our next meeting will be on April 23rd. That's 3 days before the spaghetti dinner, is that? So just keep things in perspective. And our next board meeting will be in May. We have public board meetings every other month. So are there any other comments for the good of the order?
I don't hear a tornado.
I don't hear a tornado either. You know, it's like, they always promise us this excitement and nothing happens. All right.
We don't want that kind of.
We don't want that. Oh, Ben, he's got his hand up.
Yeah, I just have a quick question, and sorry, this is maybe not for everyone, but I'm curious about the donations. If we want to support Oak Grove, you mentioned that there's the way to go through the On Point to donate to the Oak Grove Community Council, but I know there's also the Friends of Oak Grove Community Council, and they accept donations online.
Yes.
What are what are the two, why donate to one versus the other?
The people that donate, the Friends of Oak Grove Community Council is a separately incorporated private group, that, is a 501c3. So people can make larger donations, and people that want to claim that on their, taxes can do that. The CPO, the, Community Planning Organization, is part of the county structure. It is not a 501c3. So you could donate money, but you cannot claim that as money given in a tax deductible way. So our thought for a long time was that we needed a 501c3 so that we could do larger projects. So as we get started, and that's how we were able to get the money that we needed to buy the hybrid equipment, was through the work of the Friends. I just switched hats back and forth.
Well, the 501c3 can apply for grants, isn't it?
Yes, and the 501c3 can apply for grants. So we're just sort of, I know that the Friends group is just sort of getting itself going, so.
So I think, I kind of think of when you give a small donation, say at one of these meetings, it's just to help us pay for like printing and, flyers and that kind of thing. Whereas the Friends is a much larger picture, trying to fund things that the council would like to do that they don't have money in their budget to do anyway, right? So we don't really want to keep a whole lot of money in our account here for just the community council, because it's very limited about what we can spend it on. Whereas the Friends, we have unlimited ability to redirect money to certain things.
Right. And we do get money from the county. We get $250 a year that helps fund the CPO.
Based on receipts. It's only for reimbursement. You can't just like go spend it on like something. It's based on receipts. It's $100 more than it used to be. That's terrific.
Yeah, it's not gonna buy me a trip to Cancun though.
But it covers the website and, things like that. The thing with the Friends is that you can do a lot more. There are so many restrictions on the community council itself. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. With that, I believe we are ready to adjourn. Thank you all for online and offline and for being present. Thank you.